So historically in the past, our biggest water quality issue was sewage. Back then what they used to do was take all of our raw sewage every time we take a shower, wash our hands, go to the bathroom, any of the dirty water from inside of our house all goes to the sewers where it gets to a sewage treatment plant. In the past they only used to do primary treatment, which means they would separate the liquids and the solids and dump them both into the ocean, just the solids a little bit further out, which as you can imagine was really terrible for water quality. It was really terrible for the animals in the ocean, and it was really terrible for us. People would go swimming and come out with skin rashes or ear infections or all kinds of issues. That's actually how we got started back in 1985. Our founder, Dorothy Green, found out what was going on and just said, no, that's not okay. So she started organizing people in her living room, started working with other organizations, and they sued Hyperion, which is one of our treatment plants here in Los Angeles. And thankfully we won. So now all our sewage is going to at least secondary treatment, which is fantastic. So once that happened, our water quality improved tremendously. Now currently our biggest source of ocean pollution is our storm drain system, which is completely separate from our sewage system. So I'll show you. So this is our storm drain system. So I'm sure most people have seen these around in our streets because we have over 150,000 of these openings all throughout the county, and they're meant to take all the rainwater. Here in our cities we have lots of impermeable surfaces, lots of surfaces that don't absorb water, such as concrete, cement, buildings, roads, all of that. So when these big rains would come, we would get really flooded. So they said, hey, we need to find a way to push this water out to the ocean, which in this case the solution was the storm drain system. It takes all that rainwater, as well as any water coming from outside of our homes, for example a hose or a sprinkler, takes all of that, pushes it straight out into our oceans through rivers and creeks. The problem was that when they designed this, they weren't expecting that we would have a lot of the harsh chemicals that we do now, a lot of these things like styrofoam and plastic bottles. So now when people are careless with their trash, things like cigarette butts, all of that, anything that's starting off in front of our streets can travel to the oceans through the storm drain system. So when people go to the beach and see trash out there, some people think, well, oh, maybe it's the dirty beachgoers or people out on boats, and that's true. They do account for some of the trash for about 20%, which is significant, but that 80%, that big chunk, is coming from our cities, from inland through the storm drain system. It's trash either, but it's things like dog poo, it's things like fertilizers, pesticides, soap when we're doing car washes in front of our streets. Any of that kind of stuff can travel straight into our storm drain system through and then out to our oceans. So, and a good alternative or ways that we can help. So there are some kind of bigger aspect things, like maybe one day we can start treating our stormwater. There's also things called low impact development, where we actually allow this water to sink into our ground. So instead of having a driveway that's completely paved over, where it just pushes that rainwater straight into our streets, into the storm drain system, we can have pavers where there's places where that water can sink into the ground. It's going to recharge our groundwater. It's also not going to push trash into our storm drain system. So those are kind of on a slightly bigger scale, but on an everyday kind of you and me, what can we do? It's really simple things, right? It's trying to change our habits just a little bit. One, don't litter, right? That's the most obvious, most simple thing. Put your trash in the right place. The second is trying to stay away from these single-use items as much as we can. Things like styrofoam, plastic water bottles, all of that it's really popular. Unfortunately, a lot of them aren't disposed of the right way. A lot of them end up in our oceans. We have things like we just have, an area, giant area that's just collected all of this debris from us. And sometimes it's easy to point fingers and, point fingers at these big oil companies and say, hey, you guys are messing up. And they are. But it's also us that are, dumping our coffee cups or our water bottles. So switching to a reusable mug, switching to a reusable water bottle. Things like plastic bags, really sneaky. They look like jellies once they're in the water. Sea turtles love to eat them. They can ingest them, or they can get entangled around them, caught in the trash. All kinds of bad. A really simple solution, bringing your own bag, a reusable bag. People think that these plastic bags are free. They're not. They get embedded in the cost of the food. So why not try to alleviate this problem by doing something simple like bring your reusable bags. So it's really just kind of simple things, trying to stay away from plastic straws. It's just as simple as picking up the cup, putting it to our lips, right? So it's these little things that we've gotten really used to that make our lives a little bit easier, but we've taken it to a whole nother extreme level. So trying to take that back a little bit and trying to be a little more conscious, I think, is one of the ways. Also, coming out to one of our cleanups. Get involved in your community. There's lots of different ways that we can help.
Okay.